It is not firms building some giant mother brain with AI that's making fun decisions for them. There are, a handful of firms that are building really powerful internal comprehensive suites of tools and platforms using AI. But largely it is traditional, it is outdated. And I think, I came in with the thesis that startups are moving faster, they're raising less money, and they're able to extend their runways longer. And so if you're a founder and you only need $1 million to take something from seed to series B or greater, right? We're going to start seeing these startups that are unicorns with 1, 2, 3 person teams, and the rest are AI agents. So if you look at that from the VC's perspective, we need to keep up the momentum with these founders. We need to leverage data and AI to, stay relevant, honestly, as an industry, or else we're going to fall behind. So we need shorter due diligence timelines. We need to source startups earlier, and things along that nature. So the way we do that is with data and AI tools. And in the future, in the very, very near future, I think AI is not just going to be a competitive advantage, it's going to be absolute table stakes. And if your firm is not using it, you are not going to raise from LPs, first of all. So you're not going to exist, you're not going to get the funding that you need, and you're certainly not going to.
You're someone who continuously worked, whether as a host of events, an accelerator, founding and leading companies, business development, VC newsletters, really anything needed to support a founder and VC. And now you're an operations and automations manager at Red Beard Ventures. Austin, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Joe. I am super excited to be here. This is something that I've always been very passionate about, and think I can definitely contribute to.
Yeah, let's go back to the start of your journey. What was the time you actually heard of venture capital and thought hey, that's pretty cool?
Yeah, definitely. So my journey into the startup and VC ecosystem started my sophomore year of college. I was at Duke University, right when the pandemic hit, actually, and everything went to crap very fast. So internship opportunities went out the window. Nobody was really hiring. And I figured there was no better time than the present to take advantage of this kind of dorm room style business idea I'd been tossing around with some of my friends. And ultimately, we decided to take the summer and just live in a basement in Durham, North Carolina, and build this fintech startup that became Paperplane Financial. And over the course of the next year plus, I met incredible founders, VCs, and other investors, and a bunch of people who were in this early stage ecosystem. And that was kind of my introduction, peek behind the curtain into startups and VC. And I've been hooked ever since.
It's sometimes you might think that the worst thing has come, which is everything was just not available. Even though you're a college student, you're just hey, I should be able to have the right to just have an internship. That should be a necessity as a college student. But then it's the world turned to shit, and then you're oh, what do we even do? But that might actually have been a blessing because you started a startup, and that's something that people would just think about their entire lives and just never do. So, from that journey on, when was it that you actually decided hey, let's go down the VC path? Was it a light bulb moment or was it a long journey?
I definitely think it was more of a journey for me. I had this startup experience. Shortly thereafter, founded another company, and then got a great opportunity with VC I happened to be connected to intern with them. So, as a summer intern in college, kind of got my peek behind the curtain just into the inner workings of a venture capital firm. And, I knew that I loved working in these small, dynamic, fast-paced teams. A lot of VC firms operate pretty much, as a startup in their own right, right? And working with founders, getting a chance to meet such incredible people and the next generation of companies that are poised to change the world, I think that was really inspiring. It gave me a purpose in my career that I hadn't found previously. Certainly inspired me. And after that, the thought of doing an investment banking internship with Goldman Sachs or Houlihan Lokey just went out the window. And I knew this was something that I wanted to go all in on.
It's like you don't know what has come your way, and then somehow once you actually do the work, you actually have to be hands on. So you did the internship, and you were like, okay, yeah, that's actually pretty cool. Like I actually do like this. Talk a bit more about your role for our audience who might not know. What exactly is an operations and automations manager at a VC fund?
Yeah. So the short answer is that it doesn't exist. It's certainly not a traditional role. It's not intern, analyst, associate, principal partner, right, as you typically have in a venture capital firm. But largely, none of my journey or my experiences previously existed. By definition, founded a startup, right? So trying to take something from zero to one. After those experiences, I really toiled and got my hands as dirty as possible over the course of 2 years after graduating from college and kind of trying to find my wedge in, trying to build up my network. I spent a lot of time doing the wrong things, right? So applying to 10,000 LinkedIn jobs without, trying to get a warm intro into the firm, right? And putting in the real work that I think is necessary to breaking into venture. A lot of my journey has been kind of self-led experiences, teaching myself what it meant to be a venture capitalist, what I look for in startups, building up my network of deal flow, and eventually finding a wedge for myself. Um, you know, I think I think venture capital firms, at some point I realized like they're largely looking for people who can do two things. They don't need another generalist. They want somebody who can bring in deal flow, or they want somebody who can bring in LPs. And while these two things were fascinating, I kind of really got lucky and found an incredible mentor early on with John Gannon of Venture 5 Media, who was able to introduce me to the right people and also simultaneously give me a platform to develop my wedge into the industry. And for me, that was AI. Venture capital is largely opaque and kind of traditional, outdated, right? Largely still manual, handshake deals, deal flow within your network. And so, I came up with this wedge that if I could leverage data and AI, then maybe I could build projects that would get the attention of some firms. Maybe I could start consulting and giving my expertise on that to some VCs. And of course, this plan came together over time. And there were parts of it where I didn't even know exactly what I was doing. But eventually I realized that I was becoming an expert in my little corner of the VC world, which was internal operations and automations. And finally, I had enough leverage where I had worked with enough firms, I had built up enough of a network, I had made the right connections, and ultimately, I think built my luck to the point where I got introduced to Drew Austin, the GP of Redbeard Ventures. He was looking for somebody to help him build an AI-powered venture capital firm, and that's exactly what I was trying to do and what aligned with my career goals. So I joined RBV in January. I am currently the director of the syndicate. So I run our investor syndicate with 5,000 LPs and about 75 million deployed. I love meeting with founders, writing the deal memos and content. But then on the flip side, as you mentioned in your beginning question, I am the operations and automations manager. So that's not a traditional that's not a traditional role within a venture firm, right? However, what I'm doing is thinking about things like CRM and project management and building a deal sourcing engine and leveraging Slack's AI features to help our team get reporting on what we're talking about every week and testing different software tools to see if they're a good fit for our company and building an AI platform where we have features that our deal sourcing and investment teams can use across all aspects of the investment process and due diligence timeline, right? So for market research, for deal sourcing, for diligence, for LP relations, even. I'm working on building AI tools, features, platforms to be able to support those processes. So definitely spread across a variety of aspects, and it's definitely a non-traditional role. But sometimes if you just got to create your own space, and I think that's what I've done.
And that's an amazing thing that you did, because you really became like an expert in a niche within the VC industry. You get way, 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 way more connections and network than anyone else, because you are that tippy top of what they do. And one of my previous guesses, Breton, he basically says that the future of VC traditional models, they're gonna evolve. Like all the junior roles, they need to actually know how to leverage AI to be in a junior role, especially for juniors. But obviously, partners, they still need to be with that human touch, which they are an expert at. But for juniors, they really, really do need to have that data analysis. They really need to know how to leverage AI so that everything really just becomes more and more efficient. I am so freaking glad that you are a guest at this podcast right now, because heck, I didn't tell my viewers like how do you actually leverage AI, and you are the perfect person for that. So could you talk a bit more about what you did with John Gannon, all the
Mhm.
AI and ways to leverage that, so then 5-10 years when the viewers get into venture capital, and they want to stay in venture capital for a while, so they need to know what roles still exist, and the roles to leverage AI will always exist. So could you talk about what are some main ways junior VCs or just VCs in general can really leverage AI to bring greater efficiency?
Yeah, yeah, sure thing. So with John, it's very funny. Uh, I owe a great deal of my career to him. He's an incredible mentor to me, and I definitely consider it a turning point meeting him. So what happened essentially is I was completely lost, and after getting rejected from uh, quite literally over 1,000 jobs, uh, probably much more. Um, I turned to John as a kind of venture capital guru to mentor me. So I literally paid him several $100s to get on a call with me and try to figure out what the heck was wrong with my resume and with my strategy to breaking into VC. Um, and one thing that he told me was uh, that I was kind of all over the place. I had these experiences, but I was a fintech founder, and then I started a web development company, and then I interned in VC, and then I started a pitch competition. But there's really no vertical focus. Like I'm not an expert in fintech quite, but I'm also not, you know, uh, I was a generalist, right? And that's how I prefer to be. But when you're trying to break into VC as a junior, you really need to be like the blank guy, right? And so over the course of a year, I became like the AI for VC guy. How that worked was I took an investment thesis sprint with John that he was doing with some other students, and he liked my work over the course of the sprint so much that he actually asked me to stay on. And he said, "Hey, I've been workshopping this idea for a newsletter, and it's called AI for VC. And it's basically how venture capitalists can leverage no code, low code AI tools like ChatGPT to be able to create workflows for themselves that help them become more efficient at their job." I thought this was a great idea. I don't have some big background in AI. I didn't go to school for machine learning or computer science. Even I have half of a computer science degree from Duke. Didn't finish it, but I decided to stay on. I had nothing better to do and start kind of playing around with some AI tools. And over the course of a year, I ended up publishing 60 editions of AI for VC in our archives. to John's audience of 20, 25,000 startup founders and VCs. And so that's kind of how I was able to build my social media following. That's how I was able to kind of build this platform for myself, and at the same time learn all about this very niche industry of AI for VC, right? So I'd been working on these projects, and then I got invited to speak at my first conference in San Francisco on the topic of AI for VC. I met some of the firms that I started consulting for, and over time, I think it really kind of snowballed, right? And I just used this momentum that I have had as a sort of expert in this very niche space that was super early in its development to become a subject matter expert and eventually leverage that to get my job. So that's the first part of your question. And then the second is what kind of opportunities exist within this subdomain? I think a ton. I think when you think of VC, it is not firms building some giant mother brain with AI that's making fun decisions for them. That's not going on to a large extent. There are, a handful of firms that are building really powerful internal, comprehensive suites of tools and platforms using AI. But largely, it is traditional. It is outdated, and I think I came in with the thesis that startups are moving faster. They're raising less money, and they're able to extend their runways longer. And so, if you're a founder and you only need $1 million to take something from seed to Series B or greater, right? We're going to start seeing these startups that are unicorns with 1, 2, 3 person teams, and the rest are AI agents. So if you look at that from the VC's perspective, we need to keep up the momentum with these founders. We need to leverage data and AI to stay relevant, honestly, as an industry, or else we're going to fall behind. So we need shorter due diligence timelines. We need to source startups earlier, and things along that nature. So the way we do that is with data and AI tools. And in the future, in the very, very near future, I think AI is not just going to be a competitive advantage. It's going to be absolute table stakes. And if your firm is not using it, you are not going to raise from LPs, first of all. So you're not going to exist. You're not going to get the funding that you need. And you're certainly not going to generate alpha. And you won't be able to compete with firms that are using it. So that's the need for these sorts of people that are involved with AI, that are interested in the internal ops side of things besides just the traditional investing roles. So I think when I think of using AI for VC, you can use it in a variety of different ways. You can use it for sourcing. You can use it for due diligence and market research. You can use it for LP relations and fundraising. And so there are all sorts of tools and incredible ways that you can leverage alternative and unstructured data sources all over the internet to, for example, build a strong deal sourcing engine. So, we can build a funnel that takes our investment thesis as a venture capital firm and go out and cast a very wide net and even pull in startups from sources like SEC filings or social media and bring them into our web or our funnel as a firm. And then the next step is we can stack rank them with our investment thesis so we can bring the best opportunities to the top and make it so that our deal sourcing team is super efficient. And that goes into finding startups early and shortening those due diligence timelines that I think really creates alpha as a venture capital firm. So, but this is definitely a field that's still very early. I want to make that point clear, right? Like this is still something that's super early in its development. A lot of firms are just kind of curious about dipping their toes in the water with AI. How do we leverage it for our firm? How do we take advantage of this? How do we stay above water? Right? How do we position ourselves uniquely to LPs? And I think there's a great opportunity still to get involved today from day one. You haven't missed the boat, right?
Yeah, and it really is so early because right now our audience probably doesn't know like how chaotic VC firms are. It's like all over the place. It's really really messy. They're probably most of them is probably still using like spreadsheets,
Yeah,
Excel. They don't use AI at all because mostly it's because they say that founders are people driven. So mostly they just like try to get referrals from other founders. Like you can't even find them. Um, then you can't even qualify them. Then there's literally no point. So if, for example, like Austin says, if he could take all the SEC filings, all the information online about all these startups, and then see like which one actually fits the thesis. Then they're already kind of qualified, and then you talk to the founders, like talk to them with the human touch, and that is how you can get tons and tons and tons of great leads. And all of these opportunities, if you don't actually search for them, then yeah, you won't even be able to get these opportunities, so you really are missing out. And that's why, VC firms, they're not evolving. Like right now, most of them, 99% of them, is staying exactly the same. Maybe like the bigger firms, they have like their internal systems. I've talked to Boris, who is at Tribe Capital, and they created their own data analysis thing, but that's only for larger firms. Like smaller firms, they don't have anything like that. So,
yeah.
what Austin is doing is really, really early and is just incredible.
You know, besides just AI in the traditional investing process, like VCs are businesses also. They're startups in their own right, and there are tons of opportunities outside of market research and diligence and deal sourcing where the internal processes can be automated and you can take advantage of AI as well. Um, so things like building a strong CRM, a strong AI native CRM, um, or even tools like Zapier to automate workflows so that when you get a pitch deck, it sends it to AI. It fact checks it. It flags any claims, right? It gives you, maybe a one-page report that you can read before you go on an intro call with founders. It stores all that data, right? Like, so building these kinds of automations and workflows for VCs can be extremely helpful and save a ton of time also. And that's, just as valuable as some of these kind of outward investment facing tools that you can create also. So it's a huge opportunity.
Yeah, are you on your side? Is it more of you creating the AI tools, or is it you just like finding all these AI tools together and combining them to make like a system of some
Mm.
sort?
Yeah. So it definitely goes both ways. We are constantly at our firm sharing like, "Ooh, hey, just saw this agent building platform. Take a look and you know see if this could be a fit for our needs." I'm actually hiring an intern right now to do exactly that, to help us identify SaaS tools that we may use at the firm to understand our unique use cases and needs, and then follow up and build a workspace on those tools and see if it makes sense, right? So um, yeah,
Yeah, and for our viewers who just heard that, he is looking for an intern. So if you are really good with AI tools, and for the younger generation, if you guys have worked with tons of AI tools, worked with ChatGPT, Gemini, all of those LLMs and stuff like that, heck, you have a shot. So definitely apply.
yeah. Yeah, so the second part of your question was, am I creating these tools from scratch? Am I cobbling together? The answer is largely that I'm kind of cobbling together or tinkering around with various tools, building, a Zapier or Make workflow where I pull in the Crunchbase API, or I'm building a Zapier automation that pulls data from Airtable, sends an email or Slack notification, runs it through AI, things like this where I'm pulling tools from here, 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 and here. Um, as well as I create a lot of code scripts and programs using AI tools. So personally, I think that ChatGPT and Claude from Anthropic, Claude is my preference, honestly, for writing code. But I built a ton of programs where I basically say, hey, this is what I'm trying to do, code it for me. And I have a traditional stack that I like to go through when I build an AI feature that is largely, custom coded, but with AI. And of course, there are all sorts of tools available like Cursor. and you know Replit, variety of others that allow non-technical people to create and become developers. I think that there are very few barriers to entry for people into this space, and you do not have to be extremely technical to start getting curious and getting involved. You can build amazing things from scratch. Uh, Essentially cobbling things together, and that's kind of how I made it. I barely can code. I can barely look at it and write a single line, honestly. But I think the tools that are out there today are just getting more powerful by the second.
Yeah, and the thing is that you mentioned Replit. I've seen like how powerful Replit is. You can literally create an entire app. Like my friend did it. He literally created an entire app with zero code. It's really more of like a product manager where he has to be really, really specific on exactly what it is. So, for our audience actually listening to this, that should give you like tons and tons of hope of the fact that you don't even need to actually know how to code to learn how to leverage AI for VC. Well, does that mean that you just kind of do whatever you want in like every day or?
So what do you mean? Like asking about my day to day?
Yeah, yeah.
Definitely. So, a couple main roles. So, I run the syndicate. So, I am always meeting with founders. For the syndicate, we invest across the board. So, consumer, we do Web3 and crypto deals, frontier, space, defense tech. We've done all sorts of things at RBV, and it's incredible to see so many different founders and get a glimpse into a bunch of different industries. So I'm always meeting with founders, writing deal memos and content for our syndicate. On the flip side, my internal role, I'm always testing different products and assessing their fit for RBV, creating workflows for our team and automations. You know, uh, Similar to kind of like an IT role, right? Like for a VC, but I think it's uh, you know a little bit more like curious and implementation focused. So yeah, on the internal ops side of things, just looking for areas where AI and automation can speed things up. Looking for CRM tools. Looking for project management. How can I make my firm as efficient as possible? That's definitely a big part of my job, and it allows me to be creative and curious and try new things and kind of test, deploy, and repeat and figure out what works. So I think it's definitely accelerated my knowledge and understanding working for RBV these past few months, kind of failing quickly and iterating. It's been amazing. And then
Yeah,
lastly, we do have an accelerator and consultancy called Denari Labs at RBV. And so, I help out there as well. Like I am in charge of our website. I'm in charge of some of like the marketing campaign and automations that we're doing there. And yeah, definitely a spread across a bunch of roles, as a lot of people are at startups and small companies.
yeah. So you're doing like all the automation stuff. Do you even have like a budget? Because I know that some VC firms or your smaller ones is like prone to even like spend on anything. So do
Mhm.
you have to go through like a lengthy approval process just to try out some new AI application that you think would make a great system of what you're building, or like what's that process like?
Yeah. Well, first, I think you can get a ton of value for free. Most tools out there have, free 7, 14, 30-day trials that you can take advantage of. And so we definitely like to, exhaust all our resources that way first. But I think if your firm is serious about really becoming kind of AI and data enabled, then they'll probably be willing to have some level of budget for these types of tools. But I don't think it's honestly too expensive, to build kind of a decent AI stack. So, for example, you know, you could use Tascade, which is a project management tool designed for AI and AI agents. You can use Zapier for general automations. That'll cost you, $20, $30 a month. You can get a team ChatGPT space, right, for $25 per seat. You can use Slack AI for $5 a seat. Um, and then you can invest more if you want into an AI powered CRM. We use a tool called Adio that's incredible for that. And generally, I actually don't think it takes a crazy budget to really start experimenting and kind of finding a tool that finding a tool or tool stack that really makes a difference for your firm.
All it really takes is you starting, and then everything else just comes later. Like you can literally figure it out, and you can do it for free with like free trials, or they might even offer you beta access or something, because companies, they want you to try it. Like they want you to make sure that their tools are good, and in this such early process, and where you're telling them like, hey, we can leverage AI for VC, and we can create this really amazing system. Would you like to be kind of part of it? And then if people actually wants to use this system, then once they duplicate it, you make money. And AI is just like so cost effective, just like Austin says. So Cascade for AI automation, and then Zapier for general automation, and then a bunch more. It's like there's so much. And if you
Yeah.
watch back to the segment where Austin talks about what tools he uses to leverage AI for VCs, just start with that. Literally, just start with that, and then you can work from there and become an expert just like Austin. Let's switch gears for a moment. For all the aspiring VCs listening to this, talk a bit about the key reasons you personally landed your biz dev role, intern at Jumpstart Health Investors, VC analyst role at VU Ventures, and your current role at Red Beer Ventures. What made you the key difference?
I think the startup and VC worlds are so closely linked, and you learn so much about one doing the other. Right. So as an investor, I've learned a ton about what makes a high quality founder, and right, go to market strategies and things like that. And as a founder, I've learned you know so much about what makes a good VC. So I think for my initial role as an intern, I barely had any experience. The one thing that I mainly fell back on was my experience starting a fintech startup and running that for a year. And I had so much to talk about related to, building our MVP or going through an accelerator program or getting, piloting and getting a bank partner. Right. So I leveraged that experience as a founder to land that first opportunity. Um, and from there, when I graduated, I did go through the VU Venture Partners or Venture University Investor Accelerator Program. It's based in California, and like transparently, I paid to attend that program to help me become a better investor. So I moved to California, paid them to train me, and I think people have various opinions and reviews of their platform. I know a bunch of people have gone through it. For me, it's kind of like it is what you make of it type of thing, where if you're actively meeting with founders and trying to get your deals through the diligence process and make their way into investment committees, then you can make it worthwhile. But yeah, for me, that was a solid experience, building my network in California and such. And then I did move back to the East Coast after that. I spent a year doing, as we talked about earlier, building these AI projects, consulting for firms. But before that, I started a pitch competition for early stage startups. I wrote an investment thesis on the future of work, vertical or horizontal, and just kind of toiling, trying to kind of craft my resume, um, and eventually landed the position I'm at now, which, we've talked about how I leveraged my AI experience as a wedge. Um, and ultimately landed me where I am right now.
That's amazing. It's like when you want a VC internship role, one of the best ways is just like Austin, just do a startup. Like if you do a startup, people would know that yes, that person has a genuine interest in the startup's place. So, VCs, all they do is support startups. So if you have been there, then you know exactly what the founder has been through. And, VC firms, they couldn't be happier to hire someone who is a founder as their intern.
Or even if you're not founding, but you can also join a startup, right, and get experience that way. You don't have to have a gigantic, groundbreaking idea that you can try to change the world and spend years of your life doing. Like, you can also join a team, intern for a startup. There's so many startups that are very excited to have any hands-on support, right? So definitely recommend that as a strong way to break into venture capital. There are more traditional routes, if you can call it that. Going through kind of like investment banking to private equity to working your way down the traditional kind of finance path. Um, I think that's how most people do it, and it's probably less painful to do it that way. Uh, Mixing kind of like a traditional finance path for a couple of years with some like startup and venture capital interest, right? If you can find kind of a combination there to make yourself a good candidate, that would probably be easier. It takes longer, probably, but it's easier, and you get paid more in the meantime, right? If that's something that you need, that's something that uh, that a lot of people require, right? So, there are definitely different paths. I think everybody kind of carves out their own. VC is a really unique industry, um, you know, in good and bad ways.
Yeah, and that's the greatest thing about VC is literally you could be from any possible industry, and then you could maybe come from being a specialist, you can come from being a niche expert, you can come from IT, you can literally come from like any industry possible. That's the great thing about VC is that if you truly did the analysis of whether you truly wanted it, you could actually have it. People think that VC is such a mystery, but at the end of the day, it's really how much value can you provide to a VC firm. And if you're like Austin, then become a niche expert at something that VCs want. And at this moment, really, really early. And just imagine like how much of an expert Austin would be in like 5 to 10 years. Dude, he would be like way, 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 way up there in terms of how to leverage AI. And like all the VC firms would be asking like, hey, dude, how do we do that? So you just gotta be a really, really good expert. You've got all these founders that come to you as warm leads, as cold outreach. What are the top three things that you look for when looking at founders to invest in?
Hmm. Yeah, definitely. You know, One of the key things that I look for, honestly, is what Mark Andreessen would call navigating the idea maze. And so, over the course of a call with the founder, I am constantly trying to evaluate, their industry expertise, and have they, explored all of the paths and avenues and the twists and turns that this startup might take, right? Um, Adverse market conditions, or just generally, if this happens, how are you planning to respond? What's your go-to-market strategy? Have you thought through all of these things, right? And if a founder has successfully navigated the idea maze, I think that becomes obvious quickly on calls. So definitely something that I look for. The main thing that I would say is, one, has this company built a 10x improvement over the current status quo in some way? So that could be cost. Is it 10 times cheaper? Um, is it 10 times more efficient? Is it 10 times better in some way? Uh, how does this change the lives of people? Is this kind of a small micro improvement, or is this game changing, right? And we're looking for game changing solutions in venture capital. This is a grand slam business. We're looking for one or two portfolio companies to return the fund, and much more than that. So we're not looking for 3 to 5 x's. We're looking for 100x, 1000x. And so you truly need products that are groundbreaking in that way. Besides that, I think we're looking for large markets. I think that goes along a similar vein, right? We need this to be probably quantitatively like at least a $10 billion plus opportunity or market. So if you can prove that in some way, then that's a great start. Um, you know, and so those are definitely some of the things that we look for at the beginning to qualify opportunities.
Yeah, and it's really the power law. It's you just don't know. Like you have to wait like years and years and years until you really take out of your investment from VC firms if you're an LP. So it's like you're just waiting all these years. You have to make sure you trust the venture capital firm to invest in the right company. And what is a right company? It's the companies like Austin says. For example, maybe they're trying something big, which is 10 times cheaper, or it could be 10 times more effective, but it has to be a really, 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 really big market where, heck, if that company can reach like 10 billion, that's great. That's freaking amazing. And that is what the winners that VC firms are looking for. And, they're just investing in tons and tons of companies. But even if they had just one of those successes, that's it. Like, that's all they need. So I know that you've hosted, events. You're a great host. You've done that for years. You've did pitch events as well. So as events host, could you talk about what is like the basic foundational ways that you can make founders feel comfortable, VCs feel comfortable, and really just make that a great event for the people in the startups industry?
My event history, definitely a way that I spend a lot of time kind of trying to break into VC as well, hosting events. So I started doing virtual pitch competitions, um, just over Zoom. And then also I hosted a series of AI events in New York City, in person at various locations. And I think it's all about creating the right atmosphere for your participants. So just at the very very start, I think it makes a lot of sense to kind of try to really target the type of person that you're bringing to these events as a host. Keeping it general is great maybe for your first few if you want to do some kind of just like general networking type of thing. There's always value to those and they can be fun. But the best events that I've gone to have been or hosted have been well thought out in terms of the theme and the structure and exactly who they're bringing together, right? So the people there are making stronger connections and feeling like they're getting a lot out of it. So definitely recommend that. Venue is important as well, and yeah, just I think providing structure to the event in some way, and uh, honestly, like if you can put some serious thought into the planning, then you're probably ahead of about 50% of the events that you see on Luma.
What did you do in preparation for it? As in, like, did you have to um, make everyone do name tags, stuff like that? Like, what is like the basics of basics?
Hosted an event for AI founders and developers where I brought together some startups and VCs in New York. And, um, you know, we found a really uh, really small, kind of intimate environment for a venue. We bought drinks and had pizza available for people. We had name tags at the entrance. Um, we greeted everybody, made sure that we got everybody's name and talked to them at the beginning. And then one thing that I made sure to do is kind of just try to take a mental note of who this person was and why they're taking time out of their day or taking their entire evening to come to spend it with us, right? So I think you can add a lot of value if you start becoming sort of a super connector, right? VC is such a people industry. It really is largely network driven. So if you can, remember that, oh, Joe is looking for clients or leads for this, or another person, another VC is looking for startups in this sector, right? Then you can start to make those connections and bring people together, and that's where I think like that's what the events are all about, right? Like making those strong connections, um, and creating environments that are fostering community and actual value besides just you know hanging out for the sake of it, which is fun too.
Okay, yeah, that's really really good. So like once you did all these preparations, right? Like personally, you have to when you talk to the people as a host, you remember their names, you do everything. But did you have to do anything else um, other than just preparing
Hmm.
everything, the setting, to get people hyped up, or is there anything else that you need to do?
Yeah, so largely I use Luma. I think Luma is kind of like the calendar and event board for the startup and venture capital space. So if you're unfamiliar, I definitely would recommend that you use Luma. So we hosted an event there, made sure that we had catchy headline, building AI agents in NYC, right? And then we had, some cool picture of a robot serving, food to our attendees, right? So, some of the marketing on that front, we talked to some AI and VC newsletters where we were able to publish it and get the message out. But Luma has a great platform on its own. If you put together a solid event, I think you can get definitely a good solid guest list and registration that way. So largely recommend Luma, and then just getting the messaging right, making sure that it's attracting the right targets.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's really just once you have everything prepared, you just get the word out. And how do you get the word out? Austin just told you how to do it. So all you have to do is really just have catchy titles. Maybe if a big name guest could be, a partner of Sequoia, if that person is attending it, say
Mm.
it. Like literally, you just say it, and everyone will just keep coming. Because I know that, like I remember a friend who set up an event at like a college in SF. And even though it was just like a small event where it was just like one or two VCs that came, oh my gosh, the amount of college students that just
Yeah.
like literally came over, it's insane. So all you have to do is just maybe toss a couple of names of who's coming. And even if they don't make it, like that's fine. The overall atmosphere is what matters. And if everyone is passionate about something and you've prepared the right setting for them, you give them all the stuff that they need, all the drinks, the pizza, like Austin says, and the food, everything. Like if you have everything prepared, like heck, they're gonna love you. And if they actually made a solid connection, then it's because of you that they made it. And that is how you network. Um, Looking ahead, what trends in VCs are you most excited about? You guys, Red Beer Ventures raised funding from A16Z's Mark Andreessen and Chris Dixon to invest in Web3 technologies. What do you think is overlooked in the market right now?
For me, it's vertical agents. I think AI agents across kind of every field going to revolutionize everything. I'm super high on that. I don't think that's a crazy take. I think that's kind of where a lot of the clamor in the market is right now, anyway. Um, would like to say I've been on the agent wave for quite a while, and I'm very, very excited that finally, they're getting all the traction that they deserve on our way to kind of building the super agent, right? Um, so vertical agents, definitely think that is the future. I love talking to founders in that space. And then, specific to what you mentioned about crypto and Web three, I think for me, coming at it from the perspective of somebody who is not crypto native, who doesn't doesn't really have a wallet, right? Kind of embarrassed to say, but what I will say is that I think we need accessible on ramps for crypto and Web three. So I always appreciate when I'm talking to a founder in that space where they're saying, okay, it's super important that we onboard Web two into Web three, that we make it easy for people with solid UI and really easy user flows and things like that, or just understanding the terminology right? Not everybody knows what tokenomics and things like that are, right? So I think accessible on ramps for people from Web 2 to Web 3 are super, super important in that space. It's the same thing like we had for AI, right? Like ChatGPT was uh, a fantastic on ramp into the AI that really opened the world's eyes, right? And it became a super viral trend. Had millions of downloads and people trying it out and experimenting with AI, becoming more comfortable with it. And I think that largely played into the AI revolution that we've seen. So if crypto wants to, uh, have a chance to do something similar, I think that's the way to go.
Yeah, and many people don't even know what Web3 is, and like you said, what the heck is tokenomics? It's like, I think like honestly, um, more of the older generation, they probably don't even know like anything about that, but they're like the main contributors of businesses and of buying power, like ChatGPT. Everyone knows how to use it because it was such a simple thing to use. It's like, when you transition into Web3, you need something just like that. Just like Austin says, if you don't have something like that, it's gonna be hard, and someone has to do it. Like, who is it? Would it be someone in the audience? And yeah, this could be an amazing business opportunity as well. So for our audience who needs a 6 month plan and just some action to really just implement right away, what would be your recommended 6 month plan to break into VC?
Yeah, good question. So let's think about this. I would stop the cold applying, right? So the way I see a lot of people going about it is just throwing the resume anywhere that will accept it, and I think this is not the way. Um, the first thing that you really should do is you need to build a persona. Like, who are you, and what are you bringing to this industry? So, like I talked about, VCs are really looking for a couple things. They're looking for somebody for deal flow, and they're looking for LPs. So, if you can bring in funding, if you can find LPs who can write, you know, hundreds of thousands to $1 million checks, you can go work for whatever VC you want, basically, right? So if you can find a way to make those connections and introduce yourself to some of these LPs that control the capital, that would be number one. That's definitely the most foolproof way to break into VC is say, hey, I'd like to work for you, and I can bring you, X $1 million with my network. Assuming that you can't do that, I could not do that. Then the alternative is traditionally deal flow. So the way to do that is you go and meet all of the founders in a specific space that you're interested in. Meet all the founders and meet all the investors. And so things like attending events, like we talked about earlier, putting yourself out there. I think most people are willing to jump on a call with you if you reach out to them and say, "Hey, I'm super interested in what you're doing." There are tons of great ways. So, putting a little bit of structure to that. Month one, I would really put together a plan for the industry that you would like to become an expert in. Um, and I think that process looks like a couple things. It looks like examining your experience. One, so what have I already done that shows that I can be an expert in this space? And then two, what do I want to do? And then three, also what's popular and what's hot, right? So, for me, that was AI, where I was able to marry those things into kind of what I wanted my persona to become. And then I focused all of my time on learning, playing around, understanding, and becoming an expert in the space. So, I think you kind of have to take a Goldilocks type of approach, like something that is not too big. You don't want to just like try to become a fintech expert. That's far too broad. But you can become, maybe fintech payments or, insurtech. Maybe that's one step below where it's not too specific. It's not, microprocessors in Africa, right, or something. But if you can become an expert in kind of a not too hot, not too cold, right size space, then you'll be able to find the VC that is actively looking to invest in founders in that space. And then you can bring your network and your subject matter expertise to the firm. So that's certainly something I would do. The way that I would do that is through writing an investment thesis. And this is kind of like a sort of kind of like a cloudy term. Like, what exactly is an investment thesis? Um, and that can be sort of a barrier to entry. So if month one you organized your resume and figured out what you're going to focus on and kind of positioned your LinkedIn and your social media as this type of person, and you start, learning and interacting and publishing content and meeting some of the founders and investors in this space in month one, that's a fantastic start. We can take that into month two, where we really start to write an investment thesis. And to me, an investment thesis is not a pitch deck. It's not a 75-page memo. Um, you know, you can have some materials in general that you prepare, certainly. But what I would consider an investment thesis is you being able to get on a call with an investor who's an expert in that space and being able to talk nonstop for 45 minutes about that topic. So, about either startups in that space, or about issues that are going on, or regulations, or something. If you can talk for 45 minutes to an hour about uh, the area that you've decided to focus in on for your investment thesis, then I think you've accomplished that goal. You don't need some big long paper or a deck, and that'll shine through in interviews and things like that, right? So, definitely positioning yourself and then writing a strong investment thesis and continuing to interact and build your network. Uh, Venture capital breaking in is a long game. That's just the way it is. There aren't tremendous shortcuts in my experience. You'd have to get very, very lucky. But VC is a long game. You want to connect with firms, you want to connect with founders, and build your platform in the meantime. And if you can do that, then the luck will find you, right? So, I want to emphasize that, like, there's no magic pill here. There's no best way to go about this. There's no right way. Just once you find that area that you want to focus on, for me, it was the future of work, and eventually became AI, and AI for VC. Type that into Google and see what comes up, and go to that first result and learn about it and see where that takes you, and get into touch with the author. Try to have a conversation with them. And it's just, this kind of this passion and curiosity that I think will take you far. But the hardest thing to do is start, like many things, right? So
One of the things that made you like one of the most special guests on this podcast is that you have these tools and methods that you use AI to leverage it to use for VC. And just like Austin said, literally just search up AI for VC. And if you follow that, just look at the past like newsletters, what they wrote. It's literally just like how you can use ChatGPT or any like free sources, free tools, build AI systems of how you can leverage that for VC. So honestly, like, for our guests, literally just do that as your first step. Like, the first step might be the hardest, but if you want to have a guaranteed way of showing value to current VC funds right now, literally that's it right there. And then everything else that Austin has, if you do everything else in combination with it, I, honestly, like I feel like there's no way that luck can't find you to bring
exactly,
you into VC.
I think that's exactly right, and it's a super important point that I'm very big on stressing, is that you know if you commit to this process, and it's not for everybody, but if you figure out that startups and venture capital is where you want to spend your career, if this is what you are truly passionate about, and you put in the time, I think you will realize over time that uh, you know it's not as shrouded and complex, and there are fewer barriers to entry than people really realize. But you have to put in the work to really kind of visualize this. And I really think that people shouldn't be scared to jump in and begin.
Yeah, it's not such a mystery after, Austin really dissected everything for you just now. So just follow the 6 month plan, and heck, maybe luck will find you where you're just going to get that VC internship as a first step, or even just like work at accelerator, work at somewhere that really supports the VC system. And that's how one of our previous guests really got into venture capital. She had a partnership. She worked at a partnership HR firm that really just hires for VC firms and their portfolio. And then she saw that role and she was like, "Hey, I think I'm kind of perfect. Like, let's get me an interview." And bam, she's a senior associate. So it's really really amazing how luck can find you if you put yourself in the right place. So yeah, now for a few rapid fire questions to wrap up. One sentence. Ready?
Let's do it.
What's the best book you've read recently?
Yeah, I read Venture Deals, which is a VC classic. And by read, I mean audiobook. So in the car, had a super long, 5 to 10 hour car ride, and it's a super long book. So I just threw it on and banged it out. And Venture Deals is a great one.
Awesome. If you could invest in any startup from the past, which one would it be?
Yeah, definitely one that got away from me as an investor was called Banquish. It's a Latin American fintech company. I think they're solving an incredible problem for gig workers and underserved populations in South America. We were poised to invest in their Series A, kind of fell apart, and now they're doing amazing things. And I always look back on it and wish we got in.
Yeah, and sometimes like some of the best startups would get away, and that's why you're building these tools where you're making sure that if that startup is in the thesis, you want to make sure that it doesn't slip away from you and just like never gets known by you. Last question is a place you would love to travel to but haven't yet.
Yeah, definitely. So many. I think I just got back from Germany and Amsterdam, as we talked about. I love Europe, but I have not visited Asia as much. I would love to go to Japan.
That was amazing, Austin. For anyone listening who wants to learn more about you or your firm, what's the best place to reach you?
Yeah, definitely. You can find me on LinkedIn. Uh, Welcome to email me at austin at redbeard.ventures. That works as well. Always happy to chat about breaking into VC. Very passionate about this as a result of my experience. My firm is Redbeard Ventures. If you're interested in us, and yeah, I'm very active on LinkedIn. You can follow me and connect with me there.
Yeah, and for our audience, if you forgot, he is also looking for an intern right now who is going to help him with this leveraging AI for VC. So if you're working under the expert who actually is really pioneering this, sector, this niche for VC, heck, I don't know, you will become like extremely successful 5 years from now, just like Austin. So out of everyone who are two amazing VCs that you recommend as future guests to our podcast?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. So I think John Gannon himself, who's an incredible mentor of mine, and VC in a past life, and now runs Venturefied Media, where they have a strong network of startups, founders, and VCs. I think he's an incredible resource. He has helped dozens of people break into the industry. He would be the ultimate guest for this show. So definitely John. And then, also I'll say RGP Drew. Maybe I'm biased, but incredible venture capital mind, specifically in the crypto Web3 space, but has a fantastic founder mindset. Was previously a founder, and yeah, really interesting person. So I'll go with them.
Yeah, thank you again, and thanks to everyone who's listening. comment a question you want to hear from our next guest. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to press the subscribe button, like, and share with someone who's interested in getting into venture. We'll see you next time on Break into VC.